Okay, solve, it says x is a real number, and solve this equation over here. I'm gonna go to the whiteboard to do it, and I'll talk through it. All right, let's go to the whiteboard. First, I'm gonna write the problem down. And I know x is a real number. So x is some real number. It goes on here, it says the root of, this is a nested root, and it equals a cube root now of x. And before I go forward, I want to claim to you that it's probably a good idea to look at the domain of the problem first. And looking at the domain of this problem over here, one thing I do know, and let me just make sure you understand what I'm saying about this, I'm going to highlight it. I know that this thing has got to be a positive number. It's a principal root, by the way. Now, looking at that over there, I would say if that's a positive number, x would have to be greater than, when I say positive, I should say non-negative, have greater than or equal to 0. But then if I look at this over here, I start to realize that, just looking at if x is greater than 0, what would you get over there? Well, I'm just going to look at it and say that if x is greater than 0, well, I guess I could put that down, right? I know that much. Now, by the way, I could say something more about it. I'm going to say right now is I know x is greater than the 0. Now, someone says, why do you know that? I'm looking at this 1. It's going to be 1 plus, well, if x is greater than or equal to 0, that would be 1. So it's really greater than root of 2. But I'm going to say greater than 0, all right? That's over there, all right? So that's a good place to start. And again, I could refine that more, but right now, I'm going to move forward. And one way to move forward in this one over here is make a substitution in the problem. And the substitution I'm going to make is I'm going to let u equal that nested part of the root, which is the root of 1 plus x. That's a nested root. And what I'm going to do over there, I'm going to square it. And you would get u squared equals 1 plus x. Now, before I go on, I want to claim, just looking at this over here, if x is greater than 0, u would have to be greater than 1. All right, so I got that part covered. Now, looking at this, does it help me to make that substitution? Well, let's write this down. What are you going to get over here? 1 plus u equals, well, I got to get that x in terms of u now. And I'm looking at this over here, and I'm realizing just simply u squared minus 1 equals x. Now, this becomes a simpler problem for me. And what I'm going to do now is raise both sides to the least common index. And the index in this case is 2. The other one is 3. So the least common index would be 6. Now, once you do this over here, it may introduce an error into the problem. All right, and I'll always check my answers to make sure there's no error. What do you get over here? You would get 1 plus u. Well, 6 times a half is 3. And then over here you get u squared minus 1. And 6 times the third is a 2. All right, now looking at this, I'm wondering what to do now. And I don't want to multiply it out. So what I'm going to do is I'll just say 1 plus u cubed. And the u squared minus 1 can be factored. And that can be u plus 1, u minus 1. But they're being squared. All right? Now, one thing I know about this, I know that the u is greater than 1. So if u is greater than 1, u plus 1 is definitely not equal to 0. So what I'm going to do now is divide both sides by u plus 1. Now again, u plus 1 and 1 plus u is the same thing. It's commutative property of addition. Whoops, I'm at a 3, that's a 2. Sorry about that. So you get 1 plus u on the left side, and the right side you're going to get u minus 1 squared. It's getting simpler and simpler each time I go through this. Let's keep doing it. 1 plus u. This will give me u squared minus 2u plus 1. I'm going to subtract 1 and u from both sides. And what do you get? 0. This would be u squared minus 3u. And I'm going to use the zero product rule. I'm going to factor it. What do you get? U. And then you get u minus 3. So the answers over here would be u equals 0, or u would equal 3. Now, by the way, I know that u is greater than 1, so this is out of the question. This is my only possible solution at this point, all right? Now, granted, I'm not saying that's the answer to the question. Someone says, what is the question? The question is, what's x? Well, I found out what u is. So what I want to do is go back up here, and if u is equal to 3, that's the root 1 plus x. Square both sides, that would be 9. This is 1 plus x. Take 1 from both sides, you get x is equal to 8. So the problem now is I'm wondering, is this a correct solution to to the problem, all right? I'm gonna put a box on it, but I do wanna check it. Now someone says, where do you check it? Always go back to the original. And what's the original gonna be? This is the original. And I'm gonna check x equals 8 now. And what would you get? Let's check it out. You get 1, then you get the root. Well, 1 plus 8 is 9, and it's gonna be the cube root of 8. Well, the cube root of 8, this is the principal root, is 2, and this is gonna be the square root of 1 plus square root of 9 is 3. Now, 1 plus 3 is 4, and this certainly does make sense, all right? So my answer is x equals 8. That's my final answer, right? It's the only solution to the problem. So what I'm going to do is in the notes, I'm going to show you that, I'll probably do a SAGE for you, the SAGE code for it. I want to point out that SAGE has a tough time solving this over here. However, you can force SAGE to approximate the answer, and that's what I did. I also want to recommend that you look at Wolfram alpha. And if you go to Wolfram alpha and actually type this in and ask it to solve it, it's going to solve the equation, by the way, and it's going to say 8. It's also going to give you a graph of it. Certainly someone wonder what the graph looks like. The graph is going to sort of look like this over here. The right side of the equation would look sort of like this. This would be, this is a rough picture, by the way. Y equals the cube root of x. And then the square root function, maybe I didn't do a great job there. Let me get my eraser out. And again, I'm just doing a rough picture. That's all I'm doing. The cube root is going to look sort of like this over here. And the square root function, looking at it, it's going to actually start over here and going to go like this over here. And there will be a point of intersection, all right? Now, if you graph this on a computer, you could probably just pull a point off. It's going to be 8 over here, all right? Now, again, if it's 8, what's the y-coordinate going to be? 2. And you could actually pull that point out if you want, all right? Again, the cube root function, this is the cube root function, and this over here is that nested root function, all right? Thank you.